All set, Tom.
Okay, thanks. Before I open the hearing for the Barnstable Conservation Commission, I would like to ask Angela to do a roll call for the quorum purpose.
Thank you. Tangney, present. Sampu,
Present.
Lee,
Present?
Koshulik,
Present.
Hearn,
Present.
Foster,
Present.
Abedili,
Present.
Administrator Ed Hoops,
Present.
Staff Member Kim Kavanaugh.
Present.
We have a quorum, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Acting under the provisions of Mass General Law, Chapter 131, Section 40, and or Chapter 237 of the Code of the Town of Barnstable, the Barnstable Conservation Commission will hold a public hearing on Tuesday, May 27th, 2025, at 6:30 p.m. for the applications of Whistleberry Residents Association, Inc., Town of Barnstable, DPW, Kelly Barber, Barnstable Land Trust, Archright LLC, Town of Barnstable, Planning and Development. This hearing is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. The plans and application are on file and may be reviewed by scheduling appointments by sending email requests to @hoops at 230 South Street, Hyannis. This hearing is being recorded and broadcast on the Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. In accordance with the Mass General Law, Chapter 38, Section 20, please let the chair know if anyone is recording this hearing. Hearing none. Tonight's hearing agenda is posted on the town's website. On the agenda next to each application is the amount owed to the Town of Barnstable for the cost of advertisement. Please send your check to the Conservation Division at 230 South Street before the hearing. Remote participations. The Conservation Commission's public hearing will be held by remote participations as a result of an act extending certain COVID-19 measures adopted during the state of emergency, signed by the governor on May 28, 2025, suspending certain provisions of the open meeting law. Remote public access to this hearing shall be provided in the following manner. One, the hearing will be televised by Xfinity Channel 8 or High Definition Channel 1072. It may also be accessed via Town of Barnstable's Government Access Channel. Two, the real-time public comment can be addressed to the Conservation Commission utilizing the Zoom link 862-0593-9129 or use the toll-free phone number 888-475-4499 as shown on the agenda. Third, the public can also email the comments to edwin.hoops@town.barnstable.ma.us at least 8 hours prior to the hearing. For your information, the first continues tonight. Senate and Miyawat, FE3-6261 has requested for a continuance without testimony for tonight to July 8th. We have one RDA tonight, Whistleberry Resident Association, Inc., to remove an existing asphalt tennis court and surrounding fencing. Area will be loomed and reseeded with native grasses to existing grade at 100 Waters Edge and Marston's Mill, as shown on the Assessors Map 061, Parcel 03A. Is John here?
Yes, I am.
Go ahead with your presentation. With your
Yes, I could show you the drawing that we had done by Atlantic. I can share that with you if you want to look at it.
Yes, please.
Come on.
Are you sharing?
Yes, you should see it now.
No, we did not see anything.
Oh boy. Hold on one second.
John, I have it here. If you want, I can bring it up. I can bring that plan up for you.
If you could. Yeah, I don't know why it's not sharing right now, but I have it.
Ed can bring it up. Yep. Go ahead, John.
All right, so what we're doing is we're not doing anything crazy here. We just want to remove the history of Whistleberry. Many of you already know the situation. Dan Hostetter was the original developer of the area. Last year we had the boardwalk reconstructed and went through conservation for that project, and rebuilt to the existing boardwalk, which is down at the very bottom of the drawing. But what we wanted to do is this tennis court was never properly installed. It was done on basically a swampy land, and it was basically was never done properly. It's got huge cracks and crevices in it, and we want to just remove it. We don't have any plan to put anything there for the time being until the residents can all come together and decide. But right now it's a liability. It's a danger. We don't want people using it. And we have a lot of people that come over from the other side of the river and try to use the space. And it's quite unsafe in its present condition. I don't think because of the cost, we can't absorb the cost of having a brand new tennis court. So we just want to get rid of it. And that's basically why we filed for the request for determination, that we'd like to remove this. Our plan would be is if we're accepted for this, we would probably do this in the fall. We already have a contractor lined up to remove it, the asphalt. The area around the playground area, the fence that goes all the way around that, and it also uses part of the fencing for the tennis court, that would remain. But we would remove the exterior perimeter of the tennis court because there are, large fence posts that are in the ground that have footings that are going to have to be removed. So basically our plan is to just remove all the footings, the existing fencing, and just return it to the same grade with loam and some native seed. And that's it for now. Later maybe at a future time, we may decide to maybe beautify the area and use that land. It's 2.5 acres down there, and it gets a lot of use with the beach and there's kayak racks down there that people go down and use. The 78 residents that we have in Whistleberry. So that's about all I have. If there's any questions, please let me know.
Thank you, John. Any question from the commissioner? Seeing none, it's pretty straightforward on this project stuff. Ed, do you have any comment on this one?
No comments.
Okay. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
Could I have a motion to approve this project as a negative determination?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney. Aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Good luck, John.
Thank you so much, everybody.
Yep. We have 4 NOIs tonight. The first one is Town of Barnstable, DBW, to repair an existing culvert beneath Horse Avenue to correct existing structural deficiency. Damaged portion of the culvert will be replaced in kind and will be repaved at 11 Horse Avenue, 0 Ocean Street, and 45 Fountain Avenues, as shown on the Assessors Map 323, Parcel 001, and Map 324, Parcels numbers 042 and 058. Who wants to start? Amanda?
Yeah, thank you, Chairman Lee. For the record, Amanda Houle with Ty and Bond here tonight on behalf of the DPW, Amber Unruh, and my colleague, Matt Sylvia, are also on the line in support of the project in the event that they need to chime in to support any questions. I do have the notice of intent package that we submitted open, and I can screen share that. There are no new materials that the commission is not already in receipt of. So if I may, I'm just going to share my screen here. All right. So the town is proposing to replace a existing failing culvert on Hawes Ave, as well as mill and repave a section of Hawes Ave. So we're looking here on Calmus Beach, situated between SD Ave and Ocean Street. I'll flip over to our ortho photograph here. The limit of work for the culvert replacement is here. In this sort of area perpendicular to the roadway, and then this section of Hawes Ave will also be milled and repaved. There's been quite a bit of patching and maintenance work in the roadway because there are several sections of the culvert that are collapsing and failing. It's an old reinforced concrete pipe. So we evaluated a number of alternatives, lining it, replacing it in its entirety. It outlets actually near where you see this label that says Calmus Beach. And so in looking at the various alternatives, to replace the entirety would certainly impact a greater extent of resource areas. And so the project team opted to target the most deficient section of it, particularly that area that's underlying the roadway. So it's going to be this inlet outlet within the salt marsh here, and then down until about the midpoint in the culvert that you can kind of see where my mouse is panning here. The work will occur within salt marsh. So this sort of little embayment up here is regulated as salt marsh within the existing roadway, as well as a section of coastal dune. I'd like to point out at the outset that we have applied for this under limited project status under 310 CMR 1024 for maintenance and improvement of public roadways, as well as maintenance and repair of structures, including culverts, given the temporary impacts that we're looking at in terms of salt marsh. We examined our limit of work and have tried to keep the trenching as narrow as possible. And instead of doing a trench with sloping sides, we're proposing a trench box to keep this as tight as possible, so we're not going to impact, so we're minimizing the impact to the dune and to the salt marsh. And then I can pan to go to our plans here. Let me zoom out here. So this is a better view of this now that you've sort of seen the area. But again, we're situated in coastal dune. We have a fringe of salt marsh. We have our outlet here. So we have our limit of work, and then the excavation around the culvert. We'll be installing timber matting on the outside of the sheet piling that we're using to trench box out the excavation in order to minimize pressure and compaction of both the marsh and the coastal dune. And as part of this, given the sensitivity of the resources that we're working in, we're also proposing to segregate and stockpile the dune sediment or soil and material separately. And then we're also looking to whatever piece of salt marsh that's excavated here, we're looking to stockpile and maintain the peat and marsh platform and cover it or keep it inundated with brackish or saline water over the course of construction, so we can reinstall it following replacement of this culvert section. So here's another helpful view overlaid on an ortho. So again, we have the outlet, our limit of work, we have the coastal dune, and then the proposed 30-inch RCP that we're going to be replacing. We have natural heritage habitat here for piping plover and least tern. We have filed a joint NISA review with natural heritage. Their 30-day review ends on June 5th, so we are still awaiting their comments, but anticipate a time of year restriction. And given the location of the work adjacent to Calmus Beach, we are the town is looking to complete this in the fall and winter outside of the tourist season, which will dovetail nicely with the off season for the shorebirds as well. And we are also in receipt of some comments from Mass DMF as well. And they have commented on just, agreeing and commending the marsh restoration and the in situ replacement of the resource areas, and have touched on looking for a little bit more detail in terms of the restoration monitoring. So given this is an in situ replacement, we are proposing 2 years, 2 growing seasons of monitoring by a PWS and certified ecological restoration practitioner to cover and just monitor the reestablishment of this marsh platform in this area. And then, let's see. Just get my notes here. So, and then we're also within LSCSF, but there are no performance standards for that area as of yet. So we are just noting that we're within that resource as well. So I'm happy to dive into more detail in any piece of this project that the commission wishes. So I'll just turn it over for questions now.
Thank you, Amanda. Like you said, we have just received the DMF comment letter from today, May 27th, this afternoon. It's 4 comments, basically. 4 comments. DMF support the applicant's proposal to restore salt marsh elevations and plant native species throughout the salt marsh area post constructions. The second is a salt marsh monitoring plan is not included in this proposal. Key details such as the expected frequency of the regular check-in, how and who will determine if any intervention is necessary, and who will occur if the proposed planting are not successful within 2 years should be included in the monitoring plan. Third, the DMF would appreciate an annual update until the site is considered restored. Update should include the photographs, a short narrative, and should be sent to Amanda Davis at MassGov. The last one is a fuel spill from the refilling of the construction equipment will adversely impact sensitive resource area. Impact to resource area can be avoided by prohibiting all land-based equipment from being refilled on site. If equipment is refilling on site, adequate containment and cleaner material should be required to minimize impact. Question from the commissioner.
Yes.
John?
Yeah, I'm trying to raise my hand here. Okay, yes, please just first of all, compliments on your submission. It was really well detailed and well spelled out. Just a minor question, and I'm referring to your section 3.4 post-construction restoration, and this deals with the salt marsh. As I understand it, you're going to try to segregate what's taken from the salt marsh and reuse it in rebuilding the salt marsh. Is that correct?
That is correct, yes.
Okay. And if that is inadequate to achieve the same elevations as the pre-operation, what is your plan? And related to that, Ed, a question for you. They got a 2-year monitoring. Is that sufficient in your opinion, Ed?
I would suggest that you do 3, just because that's what you typically would ask for any type of project like this. We usually do 3. But...
So Ed was suggesting me that it's a 3-year monitoring rather than the 2 years as you put in the plan, if you're okay with that.
I would defer to the town and Amber if they're open to that. We had just suggested the 2 years, as that was kind of consistent with the inland wetland replication guidelines. But given that this is a tidal resource, certainly it is more vulnerable and in a more impactful environment. So I can understand that recommendation.
If the commission wishes for 3 years of growing season monitoring, we can do that. We thought 2 was adequate as long as we were seeing positive increasing growth over those 2 growing seasons. So I'll leave it to you guys if that's what you would like, is 3 growing seasons.
I think normally, Amber, we usually look for a 3-year monitoring plan afterwards. If that's okay with the town, I think we should stick with that for consistency. Plus, this is a salt marsh area that you're sort of tearing apart and then trying to rebuild. Yeah. The second part of the question was, if the stockpile material is insufficient to rebuild to the elevations that you're going to do pre-construction, where do you get the material? What are your plans then? That was the second half of my question.
Yeah, no, that's an excellent question. So ideally, there are a couple of ways we could go about salvaging and stockpiling the peat mass. When this might be helpful if I look at the site photos here. So right at the head wall that's getting replaced here, there are some sort of open tidal pools and channels. So the most ideal situation is if we can just sort of not transplant, but temporarily store those peat masses sort of just in the adjacent marsh area outside of the limit of work. Otherwise, they would just need to be maintained, in kiddie pools or some sort of basin with some water that we're able to pump out. But if pre-construction and post-construction survey, once the peat is replaced, if we're not hitting sort of those reference elevations, it'll need to be augmented with, additional really highly organic soil, or there are other options that I know it's like almost like a peat pillow or something that I know Wilkinson has used on several projects. So there are options out there to bring up that elevation and help raise up that marsh grass, because subsidence and having it at a lower elevation than existing conditions certainly is a consideration and concern for its survivability and longevity post-construction.
Yeah, which is why I was very impressed in reading your again, a very thorough submission. My compliments to you folks. But I was very interested that you were taking the elevations pre-construction, and the commitment is to rebuild to those elevations afterwards. So I think that's great. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Any other question from the commissioner? I did not see any hand up.
Tom, I'd just like to second the idea of a 3-year monitoring period. I think John is absolutely right.
Yeah, okay. Because normally under our NOI, there's any monitoring plan for 3 years. Yeah.
So,
okay. Channel 18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None. Could I have a motion to approve this project with the annual report of 3 years?
So moved.
second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Koshulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Thank you, Amanda.
Yes, thank you, Chairman Lee and members of the commission. And we appreciate your time this evening.
Yeah.
Have a night.
Thank you.
Thank you, Amber.
Amber, too.
Thank you.
Yep. The second NOI is Kelly Barber, Barnstable Land Trust. Trail accessibility improvement to include a section of boardwalk decking over the existing trail system, an accessible viewing platform, and minor invasive species management at 0 and 1540 Main Street, West Barnstable, as shown on the Assessors Map 197, Parcel 015 and 015-001. Kelly?
Actually, that'll be me.
Sorry.
Hi, good evening. For the record, Lauren Taylor with Crawford Land Management. Kelly Barber is also in attendance. She's the applicant of this project as well as the Director of Land Stewardship for the Trust. This project is at the Barnstable Land Trust's headquarters property. Oh, do you mind if I share my screen?
Yes, please.
Okay. Are you seeing that?
Yes, coming up.
Okay.
There we go.
Okay, so this project is at the Barnstable Land Trust's headquarters property at 1540 Main Street. The resource areas on the property include a bordering vegetated wetland and its associated buffer zones, as well as flood zone AE transitioning to flood zone X. And the property is also located within the Sandy Neck Barrier Beach area of critical environmental concern. And essentially, this project is just looking to make some minor site improvements in an effort to improve the accessibility of the property for visitors with limited mobility, as well as improve the property's ecological health and overall user experience. Right now, the headquarters property is largely undeveloped. There's some office space out towards the street, as well as associated paved and gravel parking areas and some storage space. but the property is almost 10 acres and most of it is undeveloped naturalized land. Popolo Pond sits in the northeast corner, and besides that, there's just a system of existing trails throughout the property. A couple sections of the trail have boardwalk decking, and there's also an elevated viewing platform. And overall, the property is a huge asset to the trust because it provides opportunities for educational events and stewardship activities and other programming for the town, which is why the trust wants to make those improvements to its accessibility and the user experience. So one of the things we're looking to do is just create a more firm and level trail surface. Some portions of the trail right now, they're either unlevel or they have roots sticking out of the surface, which is obviously a concern if you're using a wheelchair or a walker or even a stroller. So we would just be looking to bring in some compatible sediment and use that to fill in the low spots or to level out the surface where there are roots growing. And then we'd like to gently compact that soil just to, reduce the chance of it eroding gradually over time from regular wear and tear or heavy rain events, that sort of thing. Another component of the trail improvements would be adding a section of boardwalk decking. So there's 2 existing sections of boardwalk decking right now that Kelly had actually permitted back in 2019. But over the years, it's become evident that there's another section of the trail that's frequently saturated, especially in the wet winter months. So obviously, again, that's an accessibility concern. So the boardwalk decking that we're looking to construct would be very similar, essentially the same as what's already been approved and constructed out there, just in a different location. And we've included some details and photos in our documentation that shows what that would look like and how it would be built. And then there's also an elevated accessible viewing platform proposed. There's one viewing platform on the property right now. It's at the end of one of the trail segments overlooking the pond. The problem with this structure as it is that it was built with steps. So obviously it excludes a certain user group that can't use steps. And we'd like to, provide an opportunity for those users also to access the pond and enjoy the wildlife inhabiting the pond. So that elevated platform, it would be similar in size to the existing. It would be 10 feet by 13 feet. There'd be a railing around 3 edges and a couple of built-in benches for resting. And we were intentional when we chose this location for it for a couple reasons. One of which is that area is largely not very, there's not a lot of woody vegetation there right now. It's primarily low herbaceous material. So in that sense, we're able to limit disturbance to build the structure. And at the same time, between the structure and the pond, there's not a lot of vegetation right now. So by managing invasive species there was already a chance to expand on an existing view. So, it was a conscious decision to locate it where we put it, just to minimize disturbance. And I want to mention that all of the accessibility improvements that I've been talking about, those are in keeping with the Forest Service Trail Accessibility Guidelines. And that was a document Kelly had given me at the beginning of the project. Essentially, it's some standards that the Forest Service uses in order to maximize the accessibility of trails within the National Forest System. And we just thought it was a really good reference document for us to make sure that the design choices we were making were actually going to be functional and improve the usability for visitors with limited mobility. And then the last thing I want to talk about is the vegetation management work. This is kind of broken down into 3 pieces. The first one is vegetation along the edges of the trail system. So that's these dashed lines here. So any invasive species on or within 10 feet of the edge of the trails would be managed on an as-needed basis, essentially to prevent encroachment and also, improve the user experience. It's nice to have native species at the forefront when you're walking those trails. The second piece of it is these, we called out these filtered view windows. And Kelly had identified some spots on site where there's already a little bit of a filtered view, but if you managed the invasive species in there, you could get an improved view. So we basically just called those out on the plan, and I noted what species specifically would be managed in those areas. And then the last piece of it is vegetation around the edge of the pond, primarily Phragmites and gray willow. The Phragmites population right now is pretty small, and we want to, keep its population in check while it's a young stand because it can get out of control so easily. The gray willow is a little bit more established, but again, we just want to manage its population as best we can and keep the edge of the pond healthy. So I think that sums up the gist of the project. Kelly, if I missed anything or if you want to add any comments of your own, feel free to chime in. But other than that, we're happy to answer any questions you might have, and we appreciate your consideration.
Thank you, Lauren.
I'll just make a quick comment in addition. So I just want to emphasize too that this plan is really mindful around the kind of birding hotspot and diversity of bird species here. So our timing, if this project is approved, would wait until later in the fall when there's been more migration happening. But that's also why we're targeting more filtered views and also limiting more of the invasive plant management. The site as a whole is really overburdened by invasive species. So, but because of the birds that really rely on this area, we do see that if there was a really large rip and tear out, that may cause more harm than good. And it may not be that practical from financially or from a volunteer perspective. And we're looking for this project to be supported by both Crawford Land Management and BLT volunteers. Education is a really big thing with this project too, as Lauren said. So we're just looking to provide more of a balance that can meet the diversity of interested individuals' needs in order to be able to visit and connect with nature. That really helps to promote our collective goals on highlighting the importance of conservation and protecting areas. And if people can touch, feel, listen to these special spots, and they'll come to value it more. So we really feel that this project will help to support our collective goals.
Kelly or Lauren, are you looking for an ongoing conditions for the invasive management?
I suppose I would leave that up to the commission. I know some towns don't typically issue ongoing conditions. I mean, Kelly, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we'd like to be able to manage them in the long term and keep up with it.
If that's a possibility, that would be really appreciated. I know that was that occurred with the property that we have off of East Bay Road in Osterville.
Ed, do you have any comment on this?
No, I would certainly encourage the use of the ongoing condition for invasives management. That would be useful for this project. I think the project as a whole is a big improvement for what's there. It will certainly reduce any kind of impacts to the trail system. So and the surrounding wetland area. Then, so I think it's a great project.
Okay, thank you, Ed. Question from the commissioner, Bill.
Yeah, I visited this site like about a month ago, totally unrelated to this project. It's an absolutely spectacular area for birding. I have three questions. One is the idea of compacting the soil over the roots. Now, I understand it's a Forest Service practice, but the rationale for that is to try to keep it from eroding. I would think in time, with rain and whatnot, no matter how you compact a soil over the roots, it's just going to wash away, isn't it? That's one question. The second question is, you're building a second viewing platform, is that right? You're not taking down the original one. You're just putting in a second one, which is wheelchair accessible. So the question is that you're leaving the other one, so there'll be two. And then the third one is that when you said you were going to be doing invasive species management, pulling out the invasive species 10 feet wide, you are leaving the native vegetation within that 10-foot wide. Is that correct? You're not just completely creating this 10-foot open space area, are you, or are you? Those are my three questions.
Yeah, so I can comment on the last one. I might need you to repeat the questions, but I'll try to help with that. So just to clarify on the 10-foot wide, is more providing the opportunity of a window of what invasive species areas we can thin out. We're not looking to do a clear cut, and we're looking to just be able to manage what we can and help to facilitate native regrowth in that area. That's also why the ongoing conditions would be helpful, because we don't think that this could be accomplished in a year. And just with a mix of volunteer projects, we're very purposeful and methodical on only biting off what we can chew and being very mindful of what we take out, what has a chance to thrive and expand. There's a lot of viburnum, native rose, other species in these areas that we would appreciate a chance to allow them to thrive and spread further. You asked about the viewing platform. Yes, it's our intention to leave the viewing platform that we established. It offers an additional view and appreciation of the pond, so we do see value in that. And then if you could repeat your other question, please.
Just the compacting of soil. I know so many trails have, there's a lot of roots on a lot of trails, and you're talking about compacting the soil in order to reduce the potential for erosion of that soil. And I'm just imagining, boy, how well does that work? I mean, I don't know.
So I'll reframe it. We would have to introduce some sediment into the area, so some material that we could firm up, and that's what the FSTAG guidance is. And it's not just the Forest Service standard. This is what Mass Trails uses as a standard. This is what other trail professionals use as a standard. And the recommendation is that for an accessible trail, you're looking for a firm natural surface that is ideally more of a level grade across the tread. So with this soil that would be introduced, when it's graded, it would help to shed off water instead of it eroding through the middle. Any sort of trail will need maintenance and time, but this will help to achieve more of the accessible and level needs. And then we can be able to support and address maintenance needs along the way. But firming it up will help so it's not loose and creates rills as it goes. And we're trying to not need to remove any tree roots or anything. So just putting the soil on top was the goal for this.
Excuse me, Bill or Kelly, is it not also true that under ADA guidelines for accessibility, that would compacted soil would enhance accessibility for those in need? Isn't that? I remember reading that.
That's what the guidance is. Yeah. So there's
Thank you.
So ADA accessibility, just for a clarification, that's more related to buildings. FSTAG is really the trail version of ADA accessibility.
Yeah. Thank you. I thought there was something. Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah.
Are you all set, right, Bill?
Yes, I am. Thank you.
Louise?
Thank you, Bill.
Well, I just was going to comment that you have to be really strategically involved in terms of creating that buffer on either side of the trail, because there are a lot of invasive native plants. And so you have to have a balance between, you don't want to take all of something out in the process of making that cleared out, because you want to have it representational. On the other hand, poison ivy is a native plant, so you don't want a lot of poison ivy. So just mention that.
I appreciate that, Louise. So as I said, our approach is very mindful and strategic, so not a full clear out. And when we mention invasive plants, we only mean non-native invasive. We support poison ivy where it's best, just off trail. So we really only maintain our edges of poison ivy. we recognize the ecological benefit of it. So we try to leave it in place. Same with native grape and greenbrier too.
Great, thank you.
Any other question from the commissioner? Seeing none. Channel 18, any public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None. Could I have a motion to approve this project with the conditions for the ongoing invasive management?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili,
Aye.
Foster,
Aye.
Hearn,
Aye.
Kishulik,
Aye.
Lee,
Aye.
Sampu,
Aye.
and Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Good luck, Lawrence and Kelly.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. The next NOI is Artright LLC to raise the main house, rebuild the foundations, and install a building addition, repair foundations on carriage house structure, and install buffer zone plantings at 100 and 112 Washington Avenue, Hyannisport, as shown on the Assessors Map 287, Parcel 116 and 116-001. Stuart.
Hello, Mr. Chairman, Commission members, Stuart Clark representing Artright on this project. We were in front of you a couple weeks back looking for an RDA to lift the house. At this point, the Commission wasn't real comfortable with that based on the additional hardscape that was being created. So you asked us to come back with a notice of intent, which we have before you tonight. If you would let me share my screen, I put together a quick little PowerPoint presentation. Can you guys see that?
Coming up. Yep.
Okay, so just a cover page showing the existing structure as it is now. Picture right is going to be that sunroom we talked about coming off, and this is where the new kitchen's going to be. All right, page down. This is just an aerial view so you can see the whole parcel. The main house in the front and the carriage house in the back. And the wetlands are along this line here. And the coastal bank runs right in front of the house. I'll show you the 150 foot and 100 foot buffers in the next slide. Just wanted to note that the wetlands were flagged by Tunison Environmental Consultants last fall. I submitted DEP data sheets on that to the board last week. All right. So on the existing condition plans, now we've gone to a 2D plan. This is just showing what our surveyors collected for data out there. As you can see, there's the main house here with the sunroom. There's an existing carriage house here, a gravel driveway along, I guess that would be the west side, a stone wall along the front with hedges. Again, the 100-foot coastal bank buffer runs right in front of the house. The 100-foot buffer just clips the corner of the house, and the 50-foot buffer is over here, and the entire carriage house is in that buffer. Just so you guys have an idea of what the wetland looks like, this is a view of the carriage house, showing the carriage house and the wetland. And here's a wetland flag in the grassed area. So that's the wetland resource area we're taking the buffer zones from. So the proposed work, we're as you guys probably understand, we're going to lift up the house and install a new foundation because its sills are right next to the ground, and it needs some better engineering to keep the house structurally sound. The carriage house is in the 50-foot buffer zone, but the back corner of the carriage house, the foundation is cracked and settled. and the owner would like to repair that. Also, with new building code, we need to have 2 means of egress, so we want to put a second means of egress here. The existing egress is here, and this will be rebuilt. Then there'll be the applicant would like to do some stone path walks around the property. The driveway is a circular driveway now, and it's just going to be cut back to a square driveway. Let me go down the next slide. Here's the calculation of the hardscape. The green on the top left is the area between the 50 and the 100-foot buffer, and that comes out to 1,567 square feet. The red area is between I had that wrong. Between the 50 and 100, it's 2,242 square feet between this area and the driveway. I'm sorry. And the 0 to 50 is 1,567. The next viewport down is the proposed hardscape area. As you can see, it increases slightly between the 0 and 50 by 170 square feet. And in the 50 to 100, it increases about 1,000 square feet. So when you apply the commission's 4-to-1 and 3-to-1 mitigation ratios, it totals out to be, we would need to restore 3,900 and some odd square feet, and we're proposing to do about 4,000 square feet. That 4,000 square feet is shown on the viewport on plan right. It wraps around the back of the garage, around the walk, and then follows the 13 contour basically over to the property line. The owner did have a landscape designer prepare a landscaping plan for the commission's use, and it shows the number of plantings, where they're going to be. She is using a 3-tiered approach where you transition slowly from grasslands to grass and perennials into a shrub area right at the wetland line. The fear we have is that the wetland, as you saw from the first picture, was loaded with a lot of invasive species, specifically Phragmites. And our concern is that they're going to try to work their way up that slope. So we want to get some sort of deep-rooted vegetation in there to prevent or to at least slow down that migration of that invasive species. I think that's just about it. If the commission has any questions, I have the owner here with me. I have the architect with me. And I believe we have the applicant, Kara, online also.
Stuart, 2 questions. Number 1, when you show the mitigation calculations,
Yes, sir.
what's the date on this plan? I don't think I have one.
You have it, but it's just not colored as this one is.
No,
What you have is in black and white.
No, the calculations. The one that I have still have the in Luffy, and you don't have that. So I'm just want to make sure we have a copy. What's the date on that plan?
That plan should be 5/22.
5/22?
Yeah.
Okay. And we have that in the office?
I was just going to say, I ran into the same issue. I was just looking at this plan. I've got a 5/21 plan. This is a new plan that I have not seen before.
Okay. That's why I asked the question. Because in the one that you have, you're showing that 4,000 mitigation provided, but your landscaping plan does not match that area. So you may need some additional revised plans on that one to reflect that.
Yeah, I was using my plans as calculation. The landscaper designers in New York, and we're working remotely to get this done. So I told her that we use mine as a mitigation area plan, and then we'd use hers for the planting plan.
Okay, but I just to make
And
sure.
I did have our surveyors go out and stake the line here along the mitigation area, stake the walk, and stake the hay bales along the back.
Okay. One last question. We don't have the DEP number for your application. Do you have a copy? Do you have a number?
I do not. I reached out to them today, and I got, I'm on vacation message, and I don't have a DEP number at this point.
So at the end of this hearing, we'll need a continuance because we need to wait for the DEP number. Question from the commissioner, John?
Yes, thank you, John. This was my first look at this property today. And believe me, I am not an engineer or a contractor or totally familiar with construction, but I can't fathom that you could lift a house of this size up, given the amount of rot and deterioration that I saw in it. I mean, the columns under that parking area are all rotted out. So I really challenge the write-up that says it's not going to be raised. It's R-A-Z-E-D. It's not going to be raised. It's just going to be elevated up. I don't know how you're going to do that and keep this in one piece, but if your structural engineers are committed to do it, God bless them. But if it was a complete raise, R-A-Z-E, then I would take some different positions on it than just going to raise it up and lower it or put it on some elevated foundation. Couple of things I did notice as I went to the carriage house, and again, that carriage house can use an awful lot of work. Good luck to the owner with that one. But you've got in front of it within the 50, a good part of it within the 50, an 18-foot cobblestone parking area. And I sort of challenge why we have to add parking and cobblestone within the 0 to 50. Why couldn't that be left as grass? And you've got a parking court in front of that, which is out of the 50. It's in the 50 to 100. Why not have your cars parked there and just a path going to the carriage house rather than a cobblestone within the 0 to 50? Secondly, with regard to that parking area, why does it have to be asphalt as opposed to some kind of stone or more natural grading rather than asphalt, which, as Peter Sambu would say, does tend to run off with some bad things into the marsh. Third issue, maybe I missed it, but I couldn't find. You made a comment about natural stone paver walkways. I didn't see them delineated, Tom. Maybe you did, but are those paths clearly delineated? Where they're going to go? How many we're talking about? Widths, et cetera. I didn't see it. Tom Lee, maybe you saw it on it and I missed it. So those are some of my concerns. Again, I do not know how you're going to ever elevate this huge house, given the amount of rot that I, as a total layman, saw that's already present in it.
Mr. Chairman, to answer a couple of John's questions, I hope I got them all right. To lift the house, they are going to do some selective demolition. The side sunroom's going to come off. That carport's going to come off. A portion of the front patio porch is going to come off. The rear decks are going to come off. They then will insert steel I-beams underneath at a spacing that's, adequate, I guess, from the design, and then they will lift the whole house on those I-beams.
Stu, let me jump in. Is it then the plan to rebuild those parts that are being removed before you're lifting it?
They are going to rebuild the carport. Yes.
So it's going to be everything that you pull out is going to be rebuilt as is. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, it's going to be a little bit smaller when they rebuild it. But yes, it's planned to be rebuilt, and The sunroom area is that's going to be turned into the kitchen area.
Okay, all right, thank you for that. The other questions dealt with why that cobblestone parking area within the 0 to 50 in front of the carriage house.
John, right now,
why asphalt in the main parking court area?
Yeah, John, right now there's like a 4-foot apron that's a concrete apron in front of that garage.
Yeah, it's driveway, I think.
Then it's gravel. And the way your bylaw looks at gravel, that you call that hardscape. So this is just the replacement of hardscape with hardscape. They're obviously it's an expensive home. They want some treatments that make it look nice. And they thought that would delineate an area for parking. And then we could use overflow parking when they have guests over in the other areas. I think that's the plan. And what was the third question?
Let me jump back in on that, if I might. I respect where the home is coming from, obviously, but a pea stone area, something that's a little bit more pervious and cobblestones. I wonder if that wouldn't be an option that would meet everybody's needs. Because you are within the 50, and obviously there is the historical structure there. But if it's an opportunity to make things a little bit better, I'm kind of wondering if you can't rethink what the alternative is to that. And the second part of that question was, right now there's grass in that circular area that you're going to pull out and put asphalt in for the parking area. Again, asphalt is not a very good thing from an environmental point of view. So have you considered options to asphalt that would aesthetically, in my opinion, be better, but it's an individual judgment?
Yeah, John, I apologize, but that's not my call. If you know what I mean. This is what the client wants with this property, and this is what I'm presenting to you.
Okay, well, that doesn't really address my concerns. I respect where you're coming from as an agent, but doesn't really address my concerns from the commission's point of view, or at least this commissioner's point of view.
Excuse me. Can you hear me?
Who's this?
This is Carolyn Tenney, the owner of the property. Hello, John.
Hello. Hi.
I'm Carolyn. I don't know if you can see me, but you can't. Well,
we can't see you.
Can. Okay, I'm just the asphalt driveway. The way it's designed is so that we can park enough cars in there without being on the main road, because the driveway itself is very narrow. I'm open to other surfaces if this is going to delay. We're already a month delayed, and my husband's older, and I'd like to be able to get him in by to be able to enjoy it next summer. I hired an ecological landscaper, so she went to a lot of trouble to make sure that we were creating biodiversity. I've been working with her for 7 years in my property in New York. I'm committed to conservation, natives. We even researched grass seed, what would grow best, what the root structures of everything were. We worked really quickly to get this to you guys. The plan, if you look at it, has wonderful plants, wonderful, and there'll be more plants because we love it. I mean, that's just what we do. I run the conservation department for my garden club. I mean, I'm running a native plant sale. So I'm happy. The whole, as far as I am concerned, the back will be all native. The asphalt court was for my husband because it's easier to, whatever. He likes asphalt, but I'm open. I don't like asphalt. So I'm open for suggestions. And I certainly don't.
I think you should compromise and do it your way. That's how I go.
I definitely.
Whatever my wife wanted, we compromised.
I definitely don't want to hold up the project for about the driveway. So do you have something that you would prefer that isn't too pebbly, that has bigger chunks?
Ed or Peter or Bill, your thoughts on that? You have a stronger ecological background than I do. I don't know if Bill or Peter or Ed would like to answer that question.
Before you answer the questions, the other thing that came to my mind when you're looking at the asphalt, that large asphalt, and if you're looking at the grade, there will be a lot of runoff from the asphalt down to your low point. So how are you going to deal with that? So that's another issue that I just thought of it as John was talking about. There is a multiple options of different parking services that can provide some infiltration and provide some stability, so that's all. Those are in the market as well, besides asphalt. So that's my comment.
Excuse me, one final that other issue. And again, Tom Lee, did you see where the paths are delineated on this? I couldn't find them.
No.
Are they delineated?
It should be on the screen now, John.
What?
They're on the screen right now with the ecological landscape design right there. It's just to, there's not they just go to the garage and.
Okay, they were noted just with a note on, drawing C-101, and I couldn't find them on that drawing. That's where I was looking.
Okay.
I don't know if Tom wants that, Stu, or not. I mean, that, just from a drawing point of view for compliance purposes, that's all.
Are those paths included in the?
Yes, they are.
In the calculations?
Yeah, in the calculations they are. As is the driveway. So if we're changing that, then it won't change my plan. I'm still going to do as much native as I can get in there. So.
Yep. Thank you. Bill?
Yeah, I visited the site this morning, and there was no flagging of any kind. While I was there, a crew did show up, and they took out a theodolite or a level. I'm not sure what they were doing, but there was no flagging, and that is a concern. So it was, I was trying to figure out where exactly is the 50 to 100 foot buffer. I guess I have received two different plans, and the last one I received was dated May 22nd, and it had mitigation required 4,331. But the mitigation provided is 3,400, and there was a 931 square foot in lieu payment. And I went under the assumption that seemed, in the 4+ years I've been on the commission, we've not accepted an in lieu fee. And I saw that there was plenty of room for additional mitigation plantings within this 0 to 50 foot buffer. And I even had something sketched out, but then it becomes moot because I show up tonight and it's like, oh no, it's only a 4,000, essentially a 3,900 square foot requirement, and we're going to provide 4,000. And so I'm like going, huh? And what,
That was through the chair. That was my mistake. I thought I saw that in the bylaw, and I thought we could do an in lieu payment just to keep some of the backyard for my client. She adamantly told me I was wrong. So we pulled back that set of drawings. And also speaking with your staff, they say they rarely give out those hardships. So that's why I pulled that set of plans back.
So my question then becomes, where is the additional mitigation? You had only 3,400, and now you're providing roughly 4,000. So you have an extra 600 square feet. Is there some way that I can see that, yes, you did indeed expand the mitigation planting area? Because I don't.
Well, I can tell you that I'm a professional engineer, and I have my stamp on this plan, and I put 4,000 square feet on this plan.
Okay, then I would.
No, I take a little umbrage at you laughing at that.
I don't take it that way. I'm just like, well, okay. I don't take umbrage. It's not. Don't look at it that way. I'm just
I wouldn't
thinking.
do anything
Okay.
to compromise my stamp and my livelihood.
No. I'm not questioning that. It's just that as a commissioner, I made a site visit. I've had 2 sets of plans, and things have changed. And now the third time, we show up, and it's another thing. And I'm like, well, then where did it go? And so, I guess okay, you have added the additional 600, and that's good. The low in the 0 to 50 foot buffer, you are proposing to have a fair amount of it be seeded. Just essentially, is that like a meadow, if you will?
It is like it is a meadow. It's not to be mowed. There's in native ecological landscaping now. There's a trend. Well, we know regular grass is not good for the environment. So the idea is you have minimal regular grass, and then you have the meadow kind of grass buffering up to it. So it goes grass into the meadow grass. But this is a special combination that's supposed to help with, I don't have, Stu, if you can put up Betsy's plan, it talks a little bit about, over there, it says what the natural perfection seed is and some of the things that it's supposed to be doing. We can put as much of that as you like into the lawn. I mean, at some point, I'm a gardener, so I would like to be able to add some perennial, some native perennials.
Yeah.
More of them as we go on. I don't want to be like have to just do. You know what I mean? I mean, I like plants.
Good.
So
I would support that.
Yeah, it's just that we came up with trying to give you the square footage. We want you to understand that you're actually working with people that are completely committed to this type of landscaping, which is different. You're not going to go back there and find, even the trees. We did flowering dogwoods because of they're good for the birds.
So you would have mitigation boundary markers. We normally have something like that, don't we, Tom?
Yeah,
I believe that's what
the area.
Staking.
I believe that's what they were staking out today.
The literally, I mean, you'd have some kind of stone markers that show, no, it's not going to be a lawn towards the wetland. It's going to be plants, a meadow, and sometimes we do have some seeded meadows that we will have mowed like once a year or something like that.
I have a meadow, and you do mow them once a year, but I don't love meadows. They're very hard as a gardener. They're very hard. They're hard. When you actually are working in the soil, the perennial plants are easier, but for now, it's meadow until I can afford to put more perennials in. That the choice was to find something that was good for the environment that would.
I would encourage you to have the cobblestone parking area, that whole asphalt area.
Yeah.
As you would prefer to have it either shells or gravel or something a little more permeable. I mean, Tom is right. You're talking about runoff off of hardcore pavement. I mean, it's going to be an issue. So
I texted while we were talking, I texted the person that's built Archway, and they said that we can do something slightly smaller than 3/4 crushed stone, something along those lines. We can switch to that.
I would endorse that. One thing that is not really in the plan, just one last comment. There's an incredible amount of bittersweet that is on the trees along the side.
Bittersweet?
Yeah, when you bittersweet, when you're on the
On this side?
the driveway and you look straight across your lawn,
Yeah.
there's a huge cedar. There's so much bittersweet. It's obscene. I encourage you to work on the bittersweet, and maybe the Phragmites even might be controlled. I mean, we routinely approve bittersweet, bittersweet.
Well, I'm not, Phragmite is, there's also Japanese knotweed.
Oh, yeah, you got that too. Yeah,
yeah, I do. Aren't I lucky?
Yeah,
So we don't have bittersweet or Phragmite or Japanese knotweed here in New York. So how to control them is something that I'm going to have to learn about. But I obviously need to control them if I want to grow a nice native perennial garden back there. So
we deal with that all the time. People are forever.
And maybe you guys, I'll come speak to you and you can give me advice.
Are you all set, Bill?
I am, yes. Thank you.
Stuart, one thing I just want to mention, not just you, Stuart, in the sense that when we do the mitigation calculation, usually we break down in terms of whether the house addition is how many square feet. If it is the driveway, how many square feet. We break it down in terms of the hardscaping. We just do not do as a total number. Not that we don't trust you. We just want to follow, line by line in terms of how the calculations being calculated. That's all. It's not just you. We always ask for the engineer to do that kind of breakdown. So, Angela.
Yeah, thank you, Tom. Yeah, I've been out there twice, and the last time was at 9:30 this morning, and so I was glad to hear that it actually has been marked because there were no markings when I went today. To even show where the 50-foot buffer is or the mitigation line. So I'm glad to hear that that's been done. On the plan, when you leave the carriage house, because I was trying to limit the amount of hardscape in the 0 to 50, if you go out that egress and you take a sharp right and go towards the house, you wouldn't have to go so far out into the 50. Is there a reason why you have your walk going down basically a hill, then to walk back up to the house? If you just took a sharp right out of the garage, the carriage house, you'd be aiming right back towards that second dormer at the house, and you'd run right along the driveway rather than putting more hardscape in the area that's very sloped into that resource area. Do you understand what I'm talking about?
I understand exactly what you're saying, yeah.
And that might help reduce some of this square footage of hardscape that you're trying to, mitigate for. That was my only suggestion, but again, I'm doing it without anything marked today. So I walked it this morning to try to figure out how to do less in the 50 is what I was looking at. Thank you.
Thank you, Angela. Any other question from the commissioner?
Tom, let me just say I was at the house at about 3 o'clock this afternoon. As usual, I've been the last one there. And it was marked, Angela and Bill.
That's all right. I'm glad you went. Good.
Hey.
Yeah, I can't resist to say that it should have been marked a week ago. And so anybody who happened not to come at the same time John came, had to spend a lot of time trying to figure out what they were looking at. And that's a problem. So just learn from that, I guess, if you have another application before us.
Tom, Peter has his hand out.
Yep. I'm just thinking about that because, we have been talking about it sometimes that if the flagging is not available, we could consider that as, not enough information to do that stuff. But I'm just meant to mention that this is not just, the first one. This is multiple times already in a couple other applications as well too. So, Pete.
So yeah, I just would agree, and I'm glad to hear the owner take a lead on having a semi-permeable parking area, whether that's crushed shell or pavers. But yeah, I completely agree with my fellow commissioners that asphalt with that hill slope there is not a good option. So I'm glad to hear that the applicant is very receptive to that suggestion. I'm glad to see all the improvements that have happened here So thank you.
Thank you. Jeff, do you want to say anything or?
Yeah, yes, Tom, thank you.
Go ahead.
Is the carriage house being lifted as well as the main house, both buildings being lifted?
I would defer to our architect. I think he's on page 2.
Yeah, can everyone hear me?
Yeah, Kevin?
Yes. Yes. So the carriage house is not being lifted. As Stu mentioned earlier, that upper left-hand corner, when you're looking at the current plan, the foundation has settled pretty dramatically in that corner. So really, we're going to stabilize the building as much as we can and repair that, within the same footprint. So there's no expansion of the main body of the carriage house, if you will. New foundation and then new construction on top of that section only.
Okay.
Thank you.
Well, Tom, with that said, then I totally agree with all of our fellow commissioners here. And just to keep this simple right here, I believe there's an existing 4-foot concrete apron that feeds this garage. Is that correct? With 4 feet right there?
Yeah.
That should be the extent of the hardscape, in front of the garage, and the rest of the driveway, whatever the final shape and size is, should indeed be pea stone with no asphalt. So anyways, that cobblestone is way over the top.
Stuart, I have a couple questions for you. May not be related to the conservations. On the carriage house, you mentioned that on the drawing, you mentioned that there's 2 bedrooms up there. Are you keeping 2 bedrooms up there right now after you'll be built?
No, they're already there.
So back of the drawing that you're showing as a cesspool, and then on next page you said abandoned. So how is it? Where is the sewage go for the bedroom? Is there a bathroom in there or no?
Yes, there's a bathroom in there. There's one entrance on the east side, one on the west side. Then there's 3-car garage underneath. The bedrooms are upstairs.
But my question is, where is the sewage go? If there is that bathroom?
Okay. I didn't understand your question. The sewage for that right now is a cesspool right at the wetland line. We're taking that out and abandoning that, and we're going to tie into this septic system up here.
No, we're not. Sorry. We're going to have to put in a new septic system. Are you there?
Yeah, we're here. This is
because we're already at the house. The existing septic system is for 6 bedrooms, so we would have to put in a new septic system for the carriage house.
Okay, that's why I asked the question, because I see then I see abandoned, and then there's 2 bedrooms. So, because I'm changing my hats from Board of Health and looking at this as septic stuff, so that's my questions. So
so the septic
it's deal with.
Well, it will be probably where the driveway is. I don't know. We have to talk to the Board of Health about that, where they want it.
Okay. Luis.
Well, doesn't that have to be come before us or have that included in this plan?
It should be on this plan.
Right.
Layout stuff. Because otherwise, how are you going to see all this as-built drawing and stuff like that? So,
if it's within our jurisdiction, may not be. I don't know.
Well, it is in the jurisdiction.
Yeah.
If it's for the carriage house, I suspect it would have to be.
Right.
Sorry. Okay. Any other question from the commissioner? 10:18, any public comment on this one?
Seeing none.
None. Stewart and the homeowner, I think you are looking for a revised plan with a continuance date. And then we're waiting for the DEP number as well. So I have 2 dates. One is June 3rd and the other one is June 10th. Which one would suit you best?
June 3rd.
In 3rd?
June 3rd.
Okay. Could I have a motion to continue this application to June 3rd?
Excuse me, Tom, just a question before Luis, are we continuing this wide open, or are we continuing just for DEP numbers, or what? Just clarify that for me, if you would, please.
I am continuing this with the whole thing open because we have not seen they need to change the parking service area to what the material wise, and whether they have enough time to put the septic in front of the carriage house. And what the changes stuff is, and then we want to see that breakdown in terms of the mitigation calculations.
Okay, Tom.
Excuse me, I'm sorry to interrupt, but I think we aren't applying to do the carriage house now. We're showing you the carriage house so that you understand what the problems are, but we're just trying to get the main house done. And so I mean, we're just not prepared to do the carriage house at the moment. We're just showing you the whole property so you could understand it, because the wetlands and everything were in the carriage house area. But I'm not doing it.
But in this applications, I'm seeing the carriage house work and all this stuff. And now you're saying that you're not doing this?
Well, the carriage house, we're not applying for we're not applying to do it. We will do it, so that's why we were showing you the whole thing, but we're not doing it at the moment.
But this plan, if we approved it, would approve that future work.
Well, it approves the landscaping, the taking care of the land. It doesn't. I mean, it's not, there's nothing happening to the structure. The actual carriage house is the same shape, the footprint. So it's similar. It's just that the work itself is not going to be done right now because we need to concentrate on the main house because the time constraints we're under.
Can I render an opinion, Tom?
Go ahead, John.
And that is that, having spent for the engineering and the drawings and all the people you hired for this plan, if you got an approval for this plan with the carriage house changes that are on this plan, modified by some of the suggestions made tonight, then you've got an approval to do it. If you don't do it in the next 3 years, you come back and ask for an extension, which the commission will give you another 3 years, so you don't have to go through all this again.
Okay.
So you don't have to do it now, but you may be well advised by your consultant, since the work is already done, to continue with it. But that's your call.
Okay, I understand. Okay, I guess I need to understand what we keep failing to meet your expectations, even though we've tried to satisfy them. So I guess I need to understand what we need to do. You need a deep EP number. You need the surface for the driveway spelled out. What else do we need to do?
Tom said you need to change the mitigation calculations, right, Tom?
A breakdown of the mitigation calculation area. The whole condition and so forth. It's not just one lump sum line.
Okay, break down mitigation areas. Anything else? That's 3 things.
Yeah, demarcation of the mitigation area.
That's been done. Okay, demarc area. Okay.
Your architect mentioned there is going to be some shoring up of the foundation, a corner of the foundation on the
corner. Yes.
Is that going to be part of this?
It is part of it.
It is part of this.
Part of it. Well, then there is some pretty intense work being done on the guest house. So what about the cesspool?
Well, she doesn't have to ask for that change now, does she, Tom?
Oh, she doesn't.
Well,
you just recommended that maybe she should do that because it would last. She would have 3 years.
Well,
except that she could file an amended plan for that, I believe, if she wants to put that in.
She can revise. She can request for a revised plans for the septic in place of the cesspool.
Okay.
Future that give you some time to deal with.
Thank you.
should be some limitation then on what else happens to that structure, right?
Well,
Yeah, we won't be able to get an occupancy permit until we have septic.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, no one's going to be in there until there's no septic. There's nothing. You can't use that house right now.
So the other thing that you need to take a look is that Angela was talking about that stone walkway right next to your driveway to minimize the intrusion.
That's difficult for me. I mean, that's the design. The design is purposeful because I want people to be able to be in the plantings. I want to experience them. To narrow it, I don't know if we have to do that's compromising sort of the vision, but I guess.
Can I ask a question while you're speaking of this? You have 2 trees on both sides of your walkway that when you leave the carriage house, and you talked about leveling the ground there. So are you filling in where it dips off there? That's what I don't understand.
Yeah, no, not completely. We're going to put some big boulders in there, and those will be bushes. The trees won't be in there. The trees will be in front of that.
You're doing that all in the 50, though, as you walk out from the carriage house, and that was my concern. I was trying to limit the hardscape and the changes you were making.
That was we were worried about that too. We didn't want to. That's why we just thought we'd do some big rocks, and we'd put some plants and grasses and shrubs in there, so it won't be flat. It'll just be less.
Because right now it's a hill. You have to walk down to walk to the house, right?
Exactly. So but you know, when you put in some of those plants, they grow 6 feet. So it should be okay. Like it doesn't need to be leveled out. I'm not looking to try to make this into a yard that people play in.
I understand, and I'm trying to work with you. So this could be an amended plan. This could be a revision that comes later.
Great.
Is that what we're trying to say as a commission, Ed?
Thank you. I appreciate your help.
So
Angela's right. That could come in as an amendment later. Angela, you're absolutely right, in my opinion.
So is June the 3rd still your choice?
Yes.
Okay.
But I just want to understand, Angela. I didn't get your last name, Angela. Sorry to call you like your first name. But what else can I get you in terms of information so that you're clear?
Well, I guess this all falls under the calculations for the mitigation. We don't see it as a breakdown. I didn't see it. We didn't have it as commissioners for today. And when I visited the property, I couldn't see any markings. So I was trying to help you have less square footage in the 0 to 50, which is when you walk out in our jurisdiction right out of the carriage house. So that's what I was asking for. If you could pull it over closer to the driveway, you already had driveway there and it could head that way. Just have your engineer look at it. If you can move it over a little, I think it will help. That's what I was, I guess, getting at.
Okay.
For June 3rd. And then again, all these details of your planning sounds like we could amend it later.
Okay.
Yep.
Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you.
Could I have a motions to continue this applications to June 3rd?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster. Hearn.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tagny, aye. So that's unanimous, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. Good luck.
Thank you, guys.
Yep.
Thank you.
The last NOI is on the Barnstable Planning and Development test pilot projects to deploy 80 square feet of floating treatment wetlands for the purpose of monitoring eutrophications and removing nitrogen and phosphorus to reduce cyanobacteria in Eagle Pond at 0 Putnam Avenue, contoured as shown on Assessors Map 055, parcel 001. Is Jim with us?
I am, Mr. Chairman.
Hi, Jim.
How are you doing today?
Good.
Good. Excellent. So thank you for having me tonight. For everyone who doesn't know me, my name is Jim Kupfer. I'm the Director of Planning and Development for the town of Barnstable. And I have the pleasure tonight to introduce a great partnership that we're hoping to have and continue with into the future, potentially, with the town, Barnstable Land Trust, and St. John Paul II's High School AP Environmental Science team. So I'm here to present a request to place small floating island temporarily in Eagle Pond and Kentuit. This is an opportunity to develop a program that gives younger generations real-world opportunities to explore our environment and work on projects we as a town do elsewhere. Similar to what Amber Unruh has done elsewhere, and Amber has been extremely helpful in this process. She speaks the language, I really don't. Pending tonight, we aim to construct and install a small floating island planted with freshwater grasses as identified by our team and provided to the administrator. I should note, replacing the Spartina grass we originally proposed there. That was a great public comment, and so our team went back to the drawing board and provided Mr. Hoops a clean list of freshwater grasses that would be more suitable. The island will be about 5 feet from the pond's edge on an aerial. Oh, and the aerial has been provided, and I can bring that up in a moment. Students will collect and report water data over the summer, and we'll establish a baseline, and the class will measure nitrogen and phosphorus levels weeks by week. Construction details are included. Again, I can bring that up as well in a moment. And it will be that planter or that island will be held in place by a center anchor. From a practical aspect, so we'll place the floating island in a nice location that we've collaborated with Kelly on with BLT on a good location in Eagle Pond. And the practical aspect will be there will be about 16 AP environmental science juniors, seniors. Some of them are still on this evening, hung tight through the meeting this evening. The island will be put together mostly by hand and brought by a pickup truck to the entrance of the trail, so at the parking area. And the materials will then be carried by hand on site by the volunteers as well as students. And again, as I mentioned, BLT has already identified a nice spot kind of tucked away, so it's not intrusive. This will take the original assembly and installation will take a couple of hours to walk out to the location, set up properly in the morning, hopefully sometime in June if all goes well. And throughout the summer and into the fall, 1 or 2 students will visit the site, collect water samples, and check on the garden to make sure no major issues. The students will be there for about 30 minutes, plus or minus, to take samples and make observations. Once school starts back up, there might be opportunity for a class trip supervised by Ms. Gilliland, who's also on site or on tonight. And at the end of fall, the garden will be removed by hand, walked out to a pickup truck, and returned to school for storage. The garden will also be removed and composted by the students. Again, this is a temporary installation, and if successful, we would like to come back to you maybe next year and report such, and maybe ask for an additional year. So I'm here for the town. Kelly Barber, thankfully, stuck around from BLT to answer any technical questions. Ms. Gilliland is also here, as I mentioned, from St. John Paul, to answer any questions about the curriculum. And I'm happy to just share my screen quickly, if that's okay, Mr. Chairman, and just show the aerial and construction.
Yes, please.
All right, so the aerial itself, this is taken straight from Barnstable Land Trust maps, and Kelly has identified a nice location just next to Monument 7 on the paths, Pond Path. We identified Stratford as the proper location for the initial drop-off so 1 pickup truck, potentially 2 pickup trucks, depending on the size of material, and we would carry those out down an already cleared path, so we're not clearing any new path, and getting over to location 7, which is here at Eagle Pond, and we will install it just about 5 feet off the edge there, center anchored, as I mentioned. Does it switch over to the construction detail now?
Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So the construction detail, very simple construction detail. All volunteer material, all volunteer work here by Ms. Gilliland and her team. And this will be, again, placed in about 5 feet off the edge and monitored throughout the summer and into the fall by the team of students, as well as teacher and other volunteers, including myself. So with that, happy to answer any questions.
Thank you. Question from the commissioner. Anyone?
Yeah, Tom, I'm sorry, I couldn't raise my hand. Didn't we get an email from, I can't say his last name, Palma? Ms. Palma, we got an email expressing her concerns. I don't have a strong enough science background, so I defer to my experts, Peter Sampu and maybe Bill, on the issues raised in that email. Or do you want her to address them first, Bill and Pete? But I could sure use your wisdom on that, the issues that she raised in that email.
I think Jim addressed it quickly. Jim, can you just, you're not doing just the grass, correct?
That's
Sorry.
correct. I don't want to speak for public, but great questions raised. And yes, I can share my screen again. I actually have the updated list, and I could show you of more freshwater vegetation. Sorry, just let me share my screen momentarily.
I didn't mean to interrupt, John, but I think he made the change since the abutter letter, I think, is what I was trying to say.
That's helpful, Angela. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. That's correct. A great identifier of the Spartina grass was not a recommended grass. And so we went back to the team. We talked to Mr. Hoops, as well as Amber over at DPW and our team, and we identified several grasses that are more suitable for this project, that are more natural for freshwater.
Thank you. Pete?
Yeah, so having these essentially freshwater grasses, and Jim, these are grasses with rapid growing rates and high nitrogen uptake to support that growth. So the purpose of trying to lessen the water column nitrogen loading and potentially phosphorus, having that documentation is pretty cool. Is there any sense that vegetation at the end of this will be analyzed for its nutrient content? Thank you.
That's an interesting question, Mr. Chairman. If I may, I can hand it off to Ms. Gilland, who might be able to talk to that.
Yeah, I hadn't specifically considered that, but it's definitely something that we would be open to. I think at this point, the students were really interested this past year in the process of eutrophication and harmful algal blooms with cyanobacteria, especially as students that live on Cape Cod. So they were really focused on the water quality aspect. But I definitely can see that in the fall, after the students return from their summer break, the ones that were not participating in the summer program, we would be able to get them to kind of take a look at the grasses and take a look at the nutrients.
Yeah, essentially you have the potential for a primitive mass balance analysis. And that, oh my gosh, that would be so cool.
Yeah, and I think it would be so great for the kids to be able to be involved in such a meaningful report in that sense. I think that'd be great for them.
Most certainly. And you could potentially just send out for analysis. So I doubt if you're going to have the digestion and nitrogen, especially nitrogen analysis capabilities.
Yeah.
But you could send out some samples and make some assumptions. So that'd be, anyway, that's a great project you have here. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's a great suggestion as well.
I think you can send it to the Barnstable County Lab. Close.
Okay, that's perfect. Easy enough.
Bill?
Yeah, this is a question for Pete Sampu. We dealt with a very similar project over on Long Pond, and we were working with Amber Unruh. Weren't they going to look at phosphorus levels?
And I think they were. Wasn't that with also the hay bales?
Yeah. Big floating island that is a very similar thing. And they look like they were going to do a pretty serious analysis of whether or not that was going to be sufficient.
Yeah. So I
think Amber was doing that.
Some communication with Amber would be fruitful here.
Yep. We can always get back to her to get an update on that. So,
Mr. Chairman, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah, absolutely. We spoke with Amber. Amber's done a much more sophisticated project for Long Pond on this, and we wanted to kind of temper our project to be more academic for the students. So, but we included Amber in this project planning so that we learn from her project that she has been doing.
Yeah, I think that this is more of an educational experience with the potential for benefits.
Yeah, it's one way for the student to learn about floating island. I call it floating island in the wastewater treatment process. Bill, your hands up?
Yeah, no, I already commented. Thank you.
Okay. So no other question from the commissioner? 10:18, any public comment?
Seeing none.
Palmer, hands up.
Yes, thank you. I do, and I want to say thanks to James for revising the list based on my comment. But I do have a follow-up question. There are two plants that were chosen that I have comments about. One is you have common rush highlighted on the list. But I was just curious why soft stem bulrush, which is also on the list, was not chosen, because it seems like in what I've read, it seems to be more widely used for in floating islands. So just that was one question. And the other one was, I noticed sweet flag was chosen, but that's, to my understanding, and I'm not an expert, I don't believe that's native to Cape Cod, and I think it has to be carefully managed, because if it breaks away from the island, it can root into the shoreline and spread. So my question is, what actions can be, taken to ensure that the plants will not break away and will not just start to root and, then possibly, become invasive?
Thank you.
Thanks.
Keep your hands up.
Yeah. Essentially, if there is any potential for invasive repercussions here, that just can't be allowed. So a very careful assessment of those of each species that is currently listed has to be done. Ms. Palmer, thank you very much for that information.
And Ed, can you take a look at the list with those comments? Can you take a look at that list and kind of adjust it?
No, I'm already looking at it. I believe sweet flag occurs on Cape Cod. It is actually one of the plants that were approved in Amber's project as well. That was that list that you were saying. That was a list taken from the Long Pond project. So, but I will certainly look into the native status of sweet flag.
Okay, thank you. Channel 18, any more public comment on this one?
I'm Kelly Barber. I'm just going to make a comment on the sweet flag if possible.
Yep.
So I'm looking on the Native Plant Trust page, and it's flagged as native to the region. I just wanted to make that comment at least, but I agree in terms of, when we get to the plant selection, it'd be good just to do a double check.
Okay, thank you. Channel 18, any more public comment on this?
Seeing none.
None. Could I have a motion to approve these projects with a condition on submitting a report by the student on what they learned from these projects?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
John.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Kashulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
A wonderful eye.
Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair. Good luck with the project.
Thank you. Good luck. Thank you, Jim.
Thank you all so much. Have a great night.
Thank you.
We have two continuances. The first one is Senator L. Miawa to construct a dock including a boardwalk, pier, ramp, and float at 1251 Green Dome Drive, Centerville, as shown on the Assessors Map 245, parcel 033. This is SE 3-6261, and this is continuing from April the 29th. And the applicant has requested for a continuance without testimony tonight to July the 8th. Could I have a motion to continue this applications to July the 8th?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Am I on this, Tom, from the original, or it did not open? Or Angela, I guess I should ask you.
Yeah, and I didn't look. I don't think you are.
Yeah.
So Foster, I'm sorry, Foster.
Okay, so I'm not voting on this because I was not on the original. Okay,
Right.
Thank you.
Right, and I was not on the original either.
Okay.
Hearn.
I was. Aye.
Schulich.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's continuance to July 8th.
Thank you.
Thank you.
The second continuance is Barnstable County proposed installation of a permeable reactive barrier at the former municipal fire training facility to contain PFAS and PFAS from groundwater and mitigate the transport of PFAS impacted groundwater towards public drinking water supply well down gradient of the facility at 155 South Flint Rock Road, Barnstable, as shown on the Assessors Map 313, parcel 007. This is SE 3-6273. And this is a continuance from May to 13, waiting for the NHSP letter. Kim, we still do not have the NHSP letter, right?
We do not. Nope.
It's John.
Yes.
From CGA. So we don't have the letter, so we need a continuance to waiting for that letter.
I thought you had it. I guess you don't have it.
I checked it twice today.
Yeah. We had that, and we're also waiting for the state site number, which you should have, correct?
Yeah, we have the DEP number.
Okay, good.
So we just need to wait for the NHSP comment letter. So
Okay.
I'm looking at June 3rd.
Works for us.
Okay. Could I have a motion to continue this to June 3rd?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Koshulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. That's unanimous. The continuance to June 3rd.
We have one set of minutes, May 13th, 2025.
I make a motion to accept the minutes for May 13th, 2025.
Second it.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Koshulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. That's unanimous.
Our next hearing is 6:30 on June the 3rd. Could I have a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
Roll call.
Abadili.
Aye.
Foster.
Aye.
Hearn.
Aye.
Koshulik.
Aye.
Lee.
Aye.
Sampu.
Aye.
And Tangney, aye. That's unanimous, Mr. Chair. It's 8:18.